Counting the number of Ertigas out on the road is like counting sheep. There's far too many of them and you will be put to sleep. But there's a very good reason for that. You see, it's that badge right there, and that makes the Ertiga the only MPV that comes with a company-fitted CNG, which is the absolute dream team for thousands of users. Now Maruti has decided to give it a refresh, which means some changes on the outside, a higher variant, which means you get some equipment on the inside, and you get a different engine under the bonnet as well. And today, we're going to find out exactly how much have those changes improved the Ertiga CNG. On the outside, the highway toll operator might not notice the differences on the new Ertiga CNG, but look closer and you will spot a new chrome grille. Maruti calls it the winged design, which does flaunt the chrome in style. Low down, since you now get the Ertiga CNG in ZXi trim, there are fog lamps on offer as well. Over to the side, the CNG now gets alloy wheels, again courtesy the ZXi trim. But Maruti has avoided upping the tyre size like it did with the XL6, and instead you get a new look for the 15-inch alloys. At the rear, you will find a chrome strip trying to add a bit of jazz to an otherwise no-nonsense and clean design. Now, even though the changes on the outside might seem a bit too subtle, because the Ertiga CNG now gets a higher ZXi trim, you get a few extra goodies on the inside. Starting with a key that you don't have to put in. You have push start stop, and that is a good feature as well, definitely gives it a premium quotient. Then you have the touchscreen, which is not a 2-din system, it is the official SmartPlay Studio system, and that is a lot better than the standard one. Of course, it's not the SmartPlay Pro, which means you miss out on the rear view camera, but it still gets Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it definitely is worthy of being in here. Low down, you have automatic climate control now, which means no dinky switches. You get a nice climate control switch gear, and that's quite nice to look at. In here, the instrument cluster has been slightly revamped. You get 2 dials, one to show your fuel level, one to show your CNG level, and you get a color MID display as well that shows your CNG, the ratio of how much CNG you've used over petrol, and a lot of information like that. Design-wise, it's the same, the layout has not changed, but this pattern on the dashboard is new, and so is the upholstery on the seats. But that's about it. Rest of the stuff remains. You get ventilated cup holders, you get some space in the center console, not a lot, but it's good for loose change, and overall the cabin layout has not changed. Nice and wide, airy, seats are comfortable. So overall the positives have been carried forward, but because of the higher ZXi trim, you get a bit more features as well. Passengers in the middle row will be comfortable as the Ertiga has plenty of space and a roomy bench seat. The large and airy windows are a highlight, and you can also adjust the recline angle and the position of the seats for legroom. For safety, it comes equipped with 4 airbags, ABS with EBD, and a fire extinguisher under the middle row seat that is accessible from all 3 rows. The last row is thankfully unaffected by the 60-litre CNG tank. With a little adjustment to the middle row and slight recline to the backrest, even passengers over 6 feet can comfortably spend long hours in here. However, what does suffer inevitably is the boot capacity. While the CNG tank is well packaged in a way where you can get the top half of the boot, it is a struggle to load up any luggage apart from soft bags. However, where the Ertiga CNG excels is the fuel efficiency, so a quick test of that was the obvious thing to do. Now, arguably one of the biggest or the most annoying factors of having a CNG car are these long waiting lines at pumps. It is really ridiculous the amount of time I have been halted here. Petrol and diesel cars are just zipping in and out, but I have to be stranded. Nevertheless, we have to fill the full tank of CNG, go all the way to Lonavala food court, have some lunch, and then come back here to refill again, so that at least it gives us an estimate of how much CNG we consume, what's the efficiency like, and what does it feel out on the highway, because that is where the Ertiga CNG shines the most. The 60-litre CNG tank can store between 9 to 9.5 kg of CNG depending on the pressure of the pump, and Maruti claims the Ertiga CNG will return 26.11 km per kilogram. But of course, we wanted some real-world figures. In the city, we managed to squeeze through the chaotic traffic, and the Ertiga heaved in relief once we got out on the open roads. Alright, so we are out of the city traffic and onto the expressway, which is Ertiga territory. I see so many of them around me, and why not? You know, it's just such a relaxing car to drive, especially on the highway. and that has a lot to do with the engine. Now under the bonnet is an updated 1.5 litre engine, dual jet, the same engine that we've seen on the XL6, so performance is not too different. Off the line response is very good, and the power delivery overall is very linear, so you will never really struggle. That of course is in petrol mode, where the engine has 100 horsepower on tap. When you switch to CNG, that number comes down to 87 horsepower, but by no means do you feel like there is a power deficit, because the performance and the response both are very impressive. There is no way you can tell that you're driving it on CNG or petrol, and that I think is a big win, because the perception of CNG is that the performance takes a big hit. You know, you don't want that laggy, slow, lethargic performance, but with the Ertiga that's not the case at all. In terms of outright performance, the Ertiga in CNG mode takes 15.5 seconds to go from 0 to 100 kph, and the petrol mode takes 13.9 seconds for the same. And while that might sound like a lot slower, the in-gear times is what counts in the real world. 20 to 80 kph in third gear is a minor delta, with the CNG nudging ahead by 0.6 seconds, while the split for 40 to 100 kph in fourth gear results in the petrol mode winning by just half a second. So despite the 13 horsepower drop in power from petrol to CNG, there is no major difference to the way it drives. And I think a lot of that has to do with this 5-speed manual gearbox. Same as the one on the XL6, it is just so tractable in the city especially. You know, you can do low speeds on high gears, and it is just really convenient to use. However, out on the highway, I would have liked a 6th gear. It just makes life easier. You know, the revs come down, it just becomes a bit more calmer in here. And maybe an option of an automatic gearbox would have also helped its case further, along with cruise control and ventilated seats. But anyway, the whole point of a CNG is efficiency, and we've covered just around 25 kilometers, and the CNG bar has already dropped down by 1. Not a big problem, since the efficiency is sure to be more than petrol and diesel. We reached the food court, had some lunch, and turned around for the drive back. Now the other very important bit on an able highway cruiser is ride quality. Now the XL6 famously got 16-inch wheels. This thankfully didn't. They still have 15 inches on the Ertiga, and what that means is that you get a decent amount of tire profile, and ride quality as a result is a lot better than that on the XL6. If you've seen our XL6 video, you'd know that Renuka found the ride quality a bit firm. I found it too. They had to retune the suspension for the bigger size. However, the wheels on this have not changed, and that means the ride is nice and supple, very comfortable. Triple-digit speeds on the highway are very easy. But with an empty car, you will feel the thuds at low speeds, and there is a fair amount of movement as well. Handling isn't its forte, but for what it's worth, the steering is just the right amount of light to help with parking and 3-point turns. As we got back into the city mayhem, it was time to prepare myself for more waiting at the pump. Alright, so we are back in the city from the highway and back in the long line of CNG. We've kept it the same pump for consistency, and the trip meter shows 100.9 kilometers. Now we've got to fill the tank again and see how many kilos can it take, and then give you a number. Alright, so we've tanked up the Ertiga for the second time, and as I said, the trip meter that we covered was 100.9, so 100.9 kilometers, and the gas it took was 4.52 kilograms, and that equates to 22.32 kilometers per kg. Now that is very close to its claimed number of 26.11, and I'm sure if you drive it a bit more efficiently than I did, you can inch closer. This figure will of course vary depending on driving style, amount of load and luggage you carry, and as mentioned, the pressure at the CNG pump. But it is an impressive figure nevertheless. By this calculation, running cost per kilometer can be estimated to be roughly 3.4 rupees in Mumbai, where the price of CNG is 76 rupees per kg. Since the price of CNG in other states vary, the running cost will also change. Priced between 10.41 lakh to 11.54 lakh rupees, the Ertiga is in a segment of its own. No MPV currently gets a company-fitted CNG kit, and that is the Ertiga's biggest trump card. The availability of a higher ZXi trim opens the Ertiga to a wider set of audiences, and the updated engine has aided its overall refinement and performance. Its core strengths are still very much there, and if you're in the market for a CNG-powered MPV for long hauls, the updated Ertiga CNG is the perfect and your only option.